Voice of Passionate Action with Shri and Kira. I'm Jess Gentinen, hopping in here as a special, I guess, guest co-host. Surprise, here I am today to be with Shri today for an incredible hour of sharing wisdom, revelations. It's September. Oh my gosh, we are in this energy of manifestation. We're in an energy we've never gotten to experience before in this way. We've made it further than we ever have before, and it is an incredible moment to be alive, thriving, here with you. So this hour, we are here to answer your questions, get in the chat. We'll be looking at that. Share with us what you are experiencing, what's happening for you, because this is our time to come together and share. This is Global Minga every Sunday and the heartbeat of peace. So thank you for joining us. And I'm very excited to be here with wisdom teacher Shri Ram Ka today. Why don't you come on in, Shri? Hello.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Jess. It's a delight to be here on our Sunday midday community gathering. What a treat, indeed.
It is. So how is it going down there at Tosa Blue Mountain?
Oh, it is truly amazing. Every day I wake up and I go, oh, wow, another wonderful day. This morning as the sun was coming up, the birds started to wake up. And, you know, there's that magical moment where the birds are chirping and talking to each other. And the hummingbirds have this unique little flutter with their wings. So this morning I was gifted with magic. And if you hear that sound in the background,
we hear Talita.
Talita, our parrot, is saying hello to all of you as well. So birds are a wonderful gift, a reminder of the multiple expressions of life. There are so many varieties, the colors, the songs, and the interdependence with the natural world. Truly great teachers they are.
Absolutely. And same here. We're having that beautiful energy of summer and birds and just feeling that real connection. For me, I know, as well as many of you, being outside and getting out there and actually connecting with nature helps us remember who we are too. There's all those reminders and connections with the animals and the plants and the elements. So, you know, get out there and nourish, because that's a primary I'm noticing for me as I'm navigating these energies.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. Well, and so here we are in September, and it's a time to remember that, as we were talking about the birds and the gratitude of the gift, that we are at a time where awareness is nourishing our capacity to be conscious beings. It's one thing to be aware, it's another to be awake and aware. And so we are at a time where we can not only recognize the abundant nature of the universe, of this world we have, we are at a place where we can start commanding the light more effectively than ever before. Now, what I mean by that is not making a wish list. What I mean is that we will walk in full trust, knowing that that which is required for our journey will come and appear. All that is required is given unto us. You know, it's really important to recognize that what seems like a truth at one level of consciousness is paradoxical at another level of consciousness. You know, we have what we refer to lovingly as density sanity, everything that seemed true when you were at a younger stage of development. And then we have ascended sanity, which is a deeper understanding of truth that brings in a much wider context. Because truth is subject to a context. Now, I don't want to go too far downstream here, but I want to remind us that everything in the outer world, for the most part, has an agenda. That is what you read in the papers. If anybody reads papers, what you see online. There's always an agenda behind what is chosen to be printed or displayed, what is brought forward. And so truth always has a context that goes with it. When we start to anchor our consciousness with our authentic being, we're referring to a higher order of context. We're referring to our higher self. We're referencing that which is of a more expanded nature. So that level of truth can seem a little odd to people that are not in that state of consciousness. And therein is one of the jokes, that we tend to outgrow our friends. We tend to outgrow even our families at times, that as we lift, our context keeps shifting. Now, the reason I bring that up is September is one of those months that offers us an opportunity to really lift into the truth of who we are and to be more fully aware of that. So let's take a peek at the calendar. You know, these up-level calendars are beautifully created by Master Lady Kira Ra, and each year she goes into deep states of connectivity to bring forth the calendar so that it might support our conscious journey. And the key with the calendar, you know, in the old days, remember the calendars on the walls that just had one number? It said Wednesday, 7, right? It's not about the Wednesday or the 7. It's about the energy that is revealing itself through the month. And a lot of that energy you will find in the art. So I want to call your attention, if you gaze at this beautiful graphic that you see the pyramid, and dancing in the center of the pyramid, arms upstretched, is indeed an energy of the goddess, of the chalice, the energy of connectivity and creation. You know, I think many of us have said this, and it's important to remind ourselves that we are at the time of the resurrection of the goddess energy on this planet, that health, balance, and integrity cannot be sustained in the ways and through the energies that historically have championed, so to speak, those energies. The balance that is required is before us. And so as I call your attention to the arms upstretched, I want to invite us all to remember that the moment you start to dance, just move a little bit and flow. The moment you bring your hands up above your head, in that moment, we are claiming a freedom. We're claiming a connectivity that cannot be found when your hands are in your pocket. And so it's important to take the energy that's being gifted to us here and recognize that dancing energy, that celebration energy, that awareness of the gift, as we began today, the awareness of the gift of life is cause for dancing, for celebration, for recognition. And the other thing I think it's really important to bring forward for this week that we're in right now is we're building energy to the 10th, to that full manifestation moon. Now consider what that means for a moment. We're here at the 4th, and we are building energy, walking into a fulcrum point where the Mercury retrograde is fully upon us. Many of you have already felt this as we're in the shadow leading up to it, yeah? And leading to that manifestation moon. So before we talk further about that, you know, just what are you sensing as you're in the energy of this week? You know, how's that been for you? And let's unpack it further.
Thank you. You know, it is a building energy, like you share. It feels very pregnant and anticipatory, like something is really about to happen and we're on the precipice. You're in that moment of, all right, you know, something is birthing. I don't exactly know how that's all going to land, but you are excited because the reality is here. So it's a very anticipatory, excited feeling that's coming in. And that full moon feels so rich. And that energy of dancing and joy and upliftment, like you shared, like I'm feeling that. And it's a very good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we have a choice. We could choose to focus on what is emerging, what is beautiful, what is stimulating the recognition of gratitude, or we can focus seemingly on what we think is missing. But remember, as they teach you maybe day one in art school, it is the negative space, the empty space, that helps bring the fullness to that which you're drawing. And to focus on what is missing is to completely miss the boat, so to speak, to completely miss the beauty of what is emerging. And so for those of you that have a tendency to move toward the half-empty cup or whatever it is, say thank you for the discernment of being able to notice. And now I choose to bring my attention to the fullness of what is birthing here and now. And when we bring our attention to the fullness of what is birthing, you can't help but smile. because the universe is gifting us constantly. And as we are in the gratitude of the recognition of that gift, more comes.
Right.
You know,
It really is the awareness piece, right? I mean, to really be always watching and aware, because our habit can be so much to look one way, and we have to really, that awareness helps us just see where our attention is, so we can make that shift and make a different choice, and to have the gratitude like you share. You always have taught this, Archangel Zadkiel 101, gratitude, the lifting device. Just be grateful for what's there and being revealed to us.
Yes, indeed. And one of the things that's important to remember is that through gratitude, we lift above the fear-anger cycle. You know, that most of the planet, most human beings have to walk through this learning, that we start having all the various emotional reactions to life experiences, and then we get caught in a kind of a fear-anger loop. And the fear-anger loop is one of being afraid that we're not going to have enough, being afraid that we're not going to perform or not be enough, being afraid for our safety or whatever it is. It is fed through doubt. And then the ego body wants to compensate for that weak feeling of doubt and that uncertainty. And so guess what happens? We get angry. Now, for some of us, anger is considered a forbidden emotion. So instead, we sublimate that into action, that we don't recognize the anger anymore. It's just action, action, action. And so that fear and that anger start feeding themselves in our lives until we are able to see that it helps us to pop and recognize the truth of what is out there, which is infinite abundance. You know, and when we move into infinite abundance, we're moving out of the victim energy. And I want to pop this up for a second. You know, we've talked about the victim triangle many times. The key here is to understand a subtlety. The energy of victim, abuser, and rescuer is one energy, and it has three faces. So when we feel like, oh, somebody needs to do something, you know, if you see something that is agitating you and you say, well, somebody needs to take care of it, what you're saying is, I do not find within myself the passion to take action, and I'm dwelling in a victim energy, looking for a rescuer. And so the victim, rescuer, abuser energy is playing out throughout density. It is one of the first energies that we grow through on the journey of self-ascension. And so that brings us to the next step is, well, how do we grow through that? And so the answer to that question is by becoming conscious, by moving into the conscious cycle of self-ascension. And as we bring that gratitude forward, instead of the victim, abuser, and rescuer energy, we have the teacher, mentor, and healer energy. And take a look at this Merkaba. The first upward pointing triangle is teacher, mentor, healer. And those are the energies of someone who has loved themselves enough to not displace their empowerment, to not give their power away to others. When I love myself enough, I learn from my life. And I'm willing to share what I've learned as a healer or a mentor. And guess what? The other triangle that creates the Merkaba, the peace, love, and joy, becomes an everyday experience. And I know those of you watching here, put it in the chat that you have moved in your lives. You've been in the victim energy, and you've been in the teacher, mentor, healer energy. And what is the magic that brings you forward out of the victim abuser into the teacher healer energy? And I would suggest that most of you are going to find lessons of love, of peace, and joy. The lessons of saying, I am, and then filling that in. I am a teacher. I am love. I am joy. I am a mentor. All of those proactive, passionate action declarations arise from a heart that has been aroused to the truth of who you really are. Oh, let's take a moment on that.
Yes. It seems to me, as you share, Shri, if I can jump in, that a lot of beings can get really, we can get really stuck in, how do you know when you are breaking through in that level of consciousness, like when it's not your ego and it's your soul guided? How do you know the difference? Because the ego can be so sneaky in there when you're breaking through that.
So it's a great question, because at the early stages of this experience, there is an uncertainty in the knowing unless you practice listening to your heart. Because what happens is, when we are in a sense of defeat, when we're in a vulnerable state, oftentimes that's accompanied by the ego, the child ego, that says, I'm not enough, I need a parent, I need to be rescued. And so that childlike orientation perpetuates throughout our lives. And that orientation of being less than, that there's something wrong with me. If you just hold the thought right now, you try this out, we'll only do it for a second, there's something wrong with me. And notice what happens to your energy. Mm-hmm. Where in your body do you feel the collapse? Versus, I am a divine being having an earthly experience. I am a divine being having an earthly experience. Just that one shift, the very same experience now becomes something, oh, it's temporary. It's not who I am. And I have the ability to change it. That's implicit. When you say I'm having this experience, that means I can have a different experience, right?
Yeah, it's a lot different than owning it.
And therein is the key. As a child, we identify with our emotions. And as adults, we keep that pattern going until it's challenged, until we change that. And so when we are growing through the various evolutionary steps, we become more and more oriented to the sacred heart of your being. I'm not talking about emotional love. I'm talking about your ascended heart, and that the ascended heart is a connection. It's like an interdimensional portal to your ascended presence. So consider for a moment, so many of us, we take birth and we have all our pains and struggles and shaping experiences. And there's a moment in your life where you're like at this existential moment, like, why did God abandon me? What is happening to me? I'm all alone, poor me, right? That existential BS that some very famous French authors have written about. Anyway, that state of being is a valid state of consciousness, but it's not who you are. It is an experience, and you will dwell there as long as you need to dwell there until you finally step through it to discover that you are more than that. You are the consciousness that's allowing that experience to manifest, but you are not the experience. That's not your identity. And so therein is one of the magic leaps. And that's why I think so many people love the plant medicines and other forms of kind of breaking out of the habit of being dissolved in experience versus enjoying experience.
Mm-hmm. That is a really amazing discernment. And I'm loving, because people have been responding how they break out of that or how they've been working with it as we asked them. And I was going to share a few of those because I thought it was really great. Lars was sharing, it's just a daily practice for me, riding the waves.
Yes.
Yvonne, my shift really started with forgiveness, then up and up and up. And that's a really important point. Like, the forgiveness piece is huge in being able to lift and break free.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Boy, good sharings.
Sarah, staying focused on that there's something greater than this and me, and remembering to breathe. Ave Sa. I love that, Sarah.
Yes.
Todd is sharing, it's so easy to fall back into feeling the victim energy. I've been practicing gratitude and love and throughout my day, and notice the difference in my world. Thank you.
Yeah. It's thank you everybody for sharing, because each and every sharing is indeed a wisdom teaching. And this is how we become the teacher, healer, mentor, by bringing consciousness to that our experiences. Evolution is natural. And because we have an ego, because we have imprints, sometimes slipping backwards is quite natural too. The only thing is, every time you fall backwards, you're gaining experience with the disempowerment, enabling you then to choose not to go as deep or as long in the collapse state. And I think every one of us that has had to grow through addictions and grow through pains and imprints has discovered that there comes a point where we're able to take a breath, use a practice, and just step out of that Velcro moment. You know, one of the things that I notice, I have this picture here. I want to share it with you. This is a wonderful reminder, and it ties into that whole evolutionary piece that this community is acknowledging. When people are afraid, they will give away their power. And that is so evident in the cycles of human beings and society, is that when fear is stimulated, people tend to demand that the governments or some rescuer agency or person come forward and champion them. Well, isn't that the victim triangle? That because of the fear, we then move into a sense of collapse. I'm not enough, and we're looking for a rescuer. Now, that is a growth stage. Everybody goes through this because it is the natural emotional composition of an ego state. It's not who you are, it's an experience. And then the next line here, when people are terrified, they will give away their soul. Now consider the difference. And both of these statements are the divine directives brought through Master Lady Kira Ra. And these are potent reminders of our choice. When we are afraid, the reactive ego personality tends to want to be rescued, tends to look for that. That's a time to take a breath and to stop the immersion into that perspective and instead realign with the truth of your eternal presence, your empowered presence. And there are practices, and many of them are free at our website. And people just need to choose and practice. Step out of that. It's like a mud puddle. It's a mud puddle on your path, and you want to take a bath in it? Come on. You go, oh, got mud on my foot. I was feeling collapsed. Take a breath, hand on heart, and step out of it and move forward with trust. But now the other sentence, which was when people are terrified, they'll give away their soul. Consider the depth of that. That when people, you see, the energy of fear is so unpleasant, we tend to displace it outward through anger or action or save me. The energy of terror is debilitating. We don't want to feel it. And we will trade our authority. We will let, cults are sometimes built this way, that there's the terror side over here and the savior over here. And the cult leader says, only I can walk you through this. And so people give away not just their power, but their soul, meaning all of their authority. To give away your soul is not talking about possession. It's talking about, I will give my authority as a sovereign being to this other entity. That's pretty intense. And that's how robot armies are created. Yeah, it's amazing. And it's a gift of being on this planet, to be able to witness all levels of consciousness expressing, to be able to witness that, because it's through the awareness and the experience and the choice that we keep walking a path of upliftment. Our path of self-ascension is individualized to you. You're not conforming to anything. You're listening, watching, observing your own life. It's self-ascension. And when we bring consciousness to our lives, the pain will stop. It's unconsciousness that sustains pain. And therein is a paradox, because as a child, you don't want to feel fully your pain. You don't want to look fully at your pain, so we repress it. But as an adult, if you look fully at what's going on, it'll dissolve in an instant. If you deny it, it'll ripple under the surface and irritate you for decades.
Until you've had enough.
Well, I speak from authority. I have been irritated and rippled with pain for so many years. And at some point, it's not a matter of how long did you suffer. It's did you finally break free? And whether you break free on your deathbed or you do it when you're 19 years old, it's irrelevant. The freedom is freedom. Yeah. Freedom is freedom. And one of the things that my beloved Kira and I are here to do is to bring forward truth. But we talked about truth a little bit at the beginning, and I kind of had this on my mind as we were coming into this time together today, is that truth is manipulated by context. For example, in society, it's considered appropriate and proper to kill people if we are at war, right? Mm-hmm. It's a holy thing. God's on our side, we can go kill people, right? And yet, if we're at peace, oh no. Different context, right?
Right.
But from an ascended standpoint, the act of murder, an act of killing another being, has the same moral consequence, regardless of the context. Mm-hmm. To interfere with the path of another, to eliminate the opportunity for that being to grow, for that being to have a conscious evolutionary experience. That's what we all took birth for. We came here on this sacred planet to have a conscious experience, to evolve through the density, to bring spirit into these bodies, lives, and evolve it back out again. Isn't that the grand cycle? Plant a seed and let it flower. And so it's important to recognize that I believe even Jesus was credited with saying something along the lines of, I bring you the sword of truth. Now, if I have that quote right, and I may not, the sword of truth reminds me of Archangel Michael, yes?
Yes.
Evolution is revolutionary.
Yes.
And a sword at times is needed, not to kill another being, to cut the cords of the hypnosis, to cut the cords of the delusion, to stop giving away your power to that which is unnourishing and unloving.
Right. If we were really aware of how often we do that, I mean, we have been conditioned to do that from the time we were young, and that's kind of the status quo right now on this planet.
Well, we have cycles, and yeah, it's more visible than before. But one of the things the cosmic scene have taught us is that there are cycles in the conscious experience of humanity. And it's a little bit like the cycle you go through as a child. When you first are born, well, I don't want to, there are many beings that are born very awake. And then they sort of collapse into the human experience.
Oh my!
Oh, where am I? What am I? Oh, this stupid body! I can't control my arms. My head. There's that. But at some point, they usually most beings identify with the body, and the first level of identification, the first level of self, is the body. And for the baby, and exploring things with the mouth and touching the toes and feeling wet and then feeling uncomfortable, etc. And then the next level of identity becomes the emotions. Mm-hmm. Because these are enveloping experiences. So my body is like, wow, my whole universe. Then my emotions are my whole universe. And then, of course, as we start learning language, we begin to have concepts form. Our mind begins to develop. Language and mental functioning are intimately tied. And so when we begin to name things and have words for things, we just put distance, didn't we? You're no longer part of me. You are mom or sister. Whereas when you're really at the pre-verbal, everything is me. That's why I put it all in my mouth. So what a delightful evolutionary journey. And of course, there's lots of salt and pepper and pain in that journey. And pain is a stimulus for consciousness. It's no fun while you're in it, but when you cycle through it, there's rich rewards in having looked at and discovered that, because it informs you on how to make wise choices. So without rambling too far down that stream, it's just important to recognize that because we've had a journey from childhood through adolescence, through adults, through another level of adult, through a more awake level of adult, we've had all these journeys. We have multiple contexts in our brain, and the software that is our thinking process has patterns. So of course, if something happens that is hurtful, a surprise, we can revert back to a previous version of programming. We can revert back to an old way of being. And it's up to the consciousness to say, no, that's no longer valid, and choose to step out of it. So that's the most general thing, but it applies at every level. It applies to thinking that you're ascended also, because when we reach a certain point in our experience, we tend to think, I got a pretty good beat on things. I think I got it figured out. Okay. There is always more, and and if you have to put your foot in your mouth to discover it, okay, but there's always more. And the key is to hold on to that beautiful humility, that heart that says, guide me. There's always more. We live in an expanding universe, and your level of consciousness keeps going. This is why the journey can be so much fun for the entire duration. There is no such thing as decay.
Right.
There is expansion.
Yeah. There was a question in here from John that kind of plays off what we're talking about, wondering about addressing the comfort zone. And I think this is kind of, a little what we were just talking about, where you get comfortable at a certain level of your attainment and you kind of feel like you're just hanging out there. And I've been here. What could you share about that? Because I think it's an interesting, I think a lot of us find ourselves in that place sometimes.
Well, I know I have.
Yeah.
I think it's important to cut yourself some slack. And if you need a vacation, you take your vacation. The question is, how much is enough?
Yeah.
A comfort zone is really only comfortable to the ego.
Yes.
And your soul is happy with all of it. It's not like, oh no, it has to fit in this box for the soul to be comfortable. So once you have a chuckle over that, then you can recognize that the ego, which is a necessary lens that comes with having a body. So you signed up to individuate into form. Here you are having this body. You're going to get an ego. So don't let it bum you out. Work with it. Work with it. It's like the ego is your servant, not your king, queen.
Right.
But the ego, like a young child, wants to think it's king of the hill, wants to be in charge. And so the comfort zone comes in when we've been working, struggling, so to speak, expanding. The ego is tired. The ego is going home. Well, I'm losing control. And then all of a sudden things get stable for a while. And the ego is watching and saying, okay, I've learned some spiritual language. I like these meditations. Hey, we're good. Let's just hang out here. And you can do that. Take a little break. However, pay attention, because who in you is needing that predictability? Who in you is needing that comforting? And to honor and say, I love myself. I have been working hard. I've let go of things that I was attached to. I'm uncertain about my future. Hey, I need a little break. It's okay.
And then pay attention, because sometimes that little break turns into a much longer vacation than you intended. You got to come back.
Every decade. When I was young, I used to be very impressed of how stable the adult figures were in my life. My mom, my dad, my uncle, they were the same when I was age 10 as when I was 40. They were the same. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but that stability comes from a life choice to live according to certain values and principles. And that's where we hang out. That's a good thing to do. Nothing wrong with that. And a path of self-ascension will recognize that as a station of consciousness, not a destination. So it's like as we climb the pyramids of consciousness, each step you get a higher view. Each step you gain perspective. Do you want to live on the step or do you want to keep going?
Mm-hmm.
And some of us have a soul agreement to hang out at certain places and lend a hand.
Yeah.
So there's no judgment here. It's important to just be conscious, pay attention, because there are beautiful teachers at every level of the growth.
Very true. And, you know, Gary had a question that plays on this too about the witnesser. Like we're talking about the witnessing and being really aware. He's asking, is that just a state of becoming pure awareness without judgment or opinions?
Oh, it's a great question. Yeah, let me put up our famous angel here.
Yeah,
Where is she? I got too many things
I
on my
can
laptop.
see it.
There
Yeah,
we
we're
go.
looking at it. Yeah.
Okay, so the witnesser is a state of transcendent awareness that is still identified with a being.
Mm.
So in the third dimension, if you're really at the entry level of this journey, you can become aware of pain and pleasure, right? Your body, pain, pleasure. Oh, okay, I'm aware that I don't want to, I got to wait till the crosswalk says go green. Versus the fifth dimensional witnesser is in a state of recognizing the awareness. And then this evolves as it widens, because the fifth dimensional individual, the fifth dimension is so accessible. What we're really working on as a collective is to be able to release judgment and anchor in the seventh dimension, which is the zone without judgment. So I think I lost a little piece of the question there, if you want to refresh me.
It was about, awareness, and the witnessers, that being without any judgment or opinions. Is that what that?
It's a stepping stone process. You can still have judgment and have a transcendent perspective, and it's a trap. And so I think this is a good thing to talk about. This is where spiritual righteousness comes in, is that we've lifted enough to, have a more ascended journey, to be able to see how energies are working, to see the hand of the divine at play. And we're still holding on to the perspectives and separation energies that would cause us to judge one practice as better or worse, or one religion as better or worse, etc. All the forms of judgment, whether they're the subtle or the pure aggressive ones. And that those judgments, a lot of them fall away when we move into compassion, but not all of them. Compassion is a state of feeling full enough that I am able to share and be present for other beings. But when our cup is empty, it's very hard to enter that state. Doable, but hard to sustain it. And so consider what happens there is we're in the compassion zone. We're detached. We're seeing what the world needs here, or what I can do for my son, my family, my neighbor, whatever it is. It can still carry judgment.
Yeah.
And to release judgment, to lift into the seventh dimensional energy, is to be at peace with the apparent conflict, the apparent tragedies. To be at peace with them. Doesn't mean you don't act, but you're no longer holding the edge that says that should not exist. Perhaps the very reason it exists is an act of divine compassion.
Indeed. Good questions, good conversation, and as we're in this manifestation energy of September, to me, it feels like we are at that moment where we really can choose to let go of all of that judgment, and September is asking us to do that.
Right.
So how do we best use these energies right now to support that for ourselves?
Well, again, a wonderful question, because each of us has spiritual practices that speak more fully to us. We're all individual. And the what I mean by that is you have not only your individualized history from childhood to this moment. What about those lives that happened before, the witnessed history of this lifetime? Because you've been around a long time. You've had a lot of experiences. And when we take birth, part of the agreement is to forget about it all. Go through the veil of forgetfulness. I'm just here now. I'm the baby, However, as your awareness grows, some of these recognitions become more available to be known and to be seen. So your question was, how do we use this time to release the judgment? The same question is, how do I become ever more surrendered to my divine nature?
Yeah.
Because the ego wants to have authority. Your soul is the authority, and it doesn't have to prove a damn thing.
Ooh, I'm writing that one down.
so judgment is a way of propping up something that's weak.
Yes. Yes.
A benevolent, King Solomon, whatever personage you want to pay, has nothing to prove.
Mm-hmm.
I don't define myself based on others. So how do we achieve and anchor that state? First, by loving yourself enough in your imperfections to identify with the lover, not the one who has the imperfections. That takes a little practice, because the ego keeps putting stuff up on our screen, discomfort and judgment and ouch and oh, and that feels good, that feels bad, and all that, all that stuff. And that's part of the fun. That's part of the dance. And there's different music provided by the ego that we're dancing with, but you can sit one out. You don't have to engage every dance that's played. Just because the phone's ringing doesn't mean you have to pick it up. So as we, just because the dog. All right, guys, come on.
Yeah. And I've been thinking as we're sharing, and we've been doing our global Minga for peace, the last 15 days, we're at day 16 now, and we've been really diving in every day to a lot of topics and ways to move through different things, using our tools, coming to our ascended heart. We've been working through that divine galactic blueprint this week, and really connecting with the energy of tools like our healing rods. Do you want to dive into some of that? Because I would love to talk about where we're at with this and what's alive today, because we're all in the stabilizing presence of ascended energy today. That's our energy.
Well, let's take a moment and really focus on the gift of this time that we're in, of claiming consciously those ascension frequencies and being able to integrate them into our lives. So I want to do a couple of shares on this. So the first one is, let's talk about some of the frequencies. As we look at the qualities associated with the vibrational frequencies, that's from 0 to 1,000. Those frequencies were codified by David Hawkins, who wrote about 15 books, and it's a fabulous scale of consciousness. It's just a way to have a conversation. The key here is that the density consciousness, which is down at the bottom of this table, take a look at the experiences often associated with those levels of consciousness from 20 to 200. It's a lot of guilt, shame, apathy, desire, and then anger and pride. But when we get above 200, we start to have the courage to actually witness our lives. It takes courage to be the witness. It takes courage to make choices, not to be whipsawed by the whims of the environment. And so in order to move into the higher states of consciousness, we need to learn to trust. We need to understand that optimism is a choice of what are we focusing on. We need to learn forgiveness, to let go of the Velcro of what has stung us. And that opens the door to understanding. If you're not forgiving, you're not understanding. If you're understanding, you have learned forgiveness. So you see the brilliance of these scales and refinements of experience. Well, the reason I wanted to share this with all of us is to recognize this journey is universal. We're all on the same journey. And we can be in the 400s and be in a place of principles and understanding, or even in the 500s, and something happens and bang, we drop right down into fear or grief. You don't have to stay there. You can drop down there for a moment to recognize what in me has supported this to be. Mm-hmm. When we are able to articulate what in me is allowing or supporting this experience to be, we have immediately set up a healthy relationship with our experience. We have not lost ourselves in the ocean of emotion. We are experiencing and we are awake. So that's one piece that's so important, because the rods themselves are vibrating. Here, I want to put this back up. I want you to see it again. Hang on one sec. Yeah. The rods themselves are vibrating between 500 and 600. So, and we have some new ones coming out that are above 600 because of the new pyramid. So consider for a moment, if you're holding these wands of ascension that were discovered at the pharaonic times, when you are holding these rods, you are sending a frequency. It's like listening to a music that you're harmonizing with, that's in the love, the gratitude, and the joy frequency. Well, that brings forward your best. When we're able to call forward that frequency identified with the words of love and joy, etc., we are then making space for our divine wisdom, our divine nature to have its playground in the world of experience. You don't have to die to ascend. And so the Egyptian healing rods are frequency generators that are attuned to the cosmic DNA of the human being, because we are spiritual beings having a physical experience. So the rods are speaking to that spiritual DNA to activate it to come forward more fully into the spiritual experience. And so we have been talking about the Divine Galactic Blueprint. I want to bring that up and let you revisit it. So the Divine Galactic Blueprint is here on the left, and it is the ascended chakra system, and it begins at the heart. You don't even begin to open your ascended chakras until you get to a place of heartfelt existence, which is basically saying, welcome to the fifth dimension. Welcome to that plateau of compassion. From there, we can open up the energy centers that represent realms, universes of experience. And those are ascended experiences. Those ascended experiences really begin to become conscious or ripen when we open the crown chakra. And that's why on the right side of this page, you see what we refer to as the exploded crown. Now, the exploded crown is the authentic chakra system where before you took birth into a body. When we came into the physical form, that crown chakra actually collapsed into a single point. That's why in the traditional chakra system, we have a sixth chakra and a seventh. But in the ascended chakra system, we have the helmet. And that helmet is like your cosmic antenna. It is like the ability to be present to the divine, that which is outside of density. So each and every one of us is on this wonderful journey of seeking connection with the higher order of truth, with the essential truth, essence. So freedom into the truth realm, the realm of connectivity, is the gift of authenticity. Yet, taking birth into the body is a journey of forgetfulness into remembering. So as we're coming to near the close of our time today, I want to invite us all to be together for, let's do a little meditation that will not only activate more consciously your exploded crown chakra, but will also give you an opportunity to feel more fully the connection that is yours to claim. So let's take a little breath. You need to do a little wiggle. Get comfortable in your body. And as your hands are on your hearts, breathe in and out of your heart chakra now. And then for those of you that are not yet doing the Ave Sa breath, I invite you to try that now. On the inhale, thinking Ave, recognizing the divine. Ave. And on the exhale, make sound, a Sa, which is I release all resistance to the divine. On the inhale, I'm connected to the divine. I see, feel, and trust the divine. And on the exhale, I release all worldly resistance. So continue to breathe. Ave, Sa, Ave, Sa. And as you feel yourselves centering at your heart, if you have Egyptian healing rods, lift them up to your heart center to help anchor that ascended heart energy. And now, declare with me, just repeat. I now release the energy that keeps me spellbound. I now release the energy that keeps me spellbound. Breathing in and out of your heart. Because to take birth on this planet, you are under a spell. And to release the energy of being spellbound means that you can accept, you can understand on a higher level the energy of true freedom, to be a galactic citizen, so to speak. Freedom, connectivity, and authenticity arrive when we release the energy of being spellbound. Close your eyes, keep relaxing. Now that we've chosen to release the spell, take one hand and bring it to the center of your forehead. And give a little rub there, activating your star consciousness. And now, on the inhale, I want you to take both hands and bring them up in the air like it was in that beautiful calendar for September. So we inhale, lift the hands up and hold them up. Inhale, the arms up. Exhale, the breath comes out of your ears. Breathe up. Sa. Breathe up. Sa. Out the ears. More. Do it again. Sa. Straighten your spine. Sa. Yes. Breathe up. Exhale out the ears. And as you're ready, you can relax your arms, but leave that connection open out the ears. The skull is bigger and softer. And anytime you feel that you need a lift, anytime that you feel depressed, breathe up. Activate that ascended crown. Continue to breathe up and feel that energy above your head. This is the portal energy to the conscious connection to the universe. We're going to add one more thing. As you gain familiarity with this state of being, you might feel a little floaty. Bring your attention back to your forehead and activate the star consciousness that is right above your third eye. Breathe in and out. of this area. Just imagine the breath is coming into your star consciousness. Breathe in and out. And now consciously command. On the inhale, I'm opening my crown. On the exhale, I'm releasing all that no longer serves out through the heart. I see it, I love it, I release it. So inhaling up, exhaling through the heart. Inhaling into the star. Exhaling all the frumpy, grumpy stuff out the heart. And then quietly, in your own pace, continue that for a moment. Notice what you're experiencing. Notice your thoughts, emotions. If you want to share, you can type them in the chat. And if you want to just notice, you can notice. The conscious journey is the path of joy. Joy is the natural product when we are awake to the truth of our being. The Egyptian healing rods are tools, and that they have cycled on this planet every few thousand years at times when consciousness was ready for the ascension of consciousness. And as I shared earlier, one of the things the Essene have taught us is that cycles of repetition tend to be cycles of collapse into the physical, into the lower chakras, into conflict, into emotion, into dogma. And then as we lift into the embrace of oneness consciousness, the Egyptian healing rods are available to help us lift into those higher states and anchor there while still having a body. You no longer need to die to ascend. We simply need to choose and release that which no longer serves the process of self-ascension. So what a wonderful Sunday.
This has been an incredible Sunday service. I feel ready to go and take on the whole day. And, you know, if you're enjoying what we're sharing and putting down and you haven't been to our Facebook yet, get there every day at 6 p.m. Eastern, where we are sharing and exploring and expanding. We've got the week ahead, and October 1st, you want to get in there and join us. Go check that out at shriandkira.com, because we're going to be diving deeper into these mysteries, and everything that you've been sharing, Shri, has been so informative, expansive, and uplifting. Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed being here with you today, and all of you. We love you. There's so much love in the chat. We just love you all. Thank you.
Yeah, beautiful indeed. So beloved ones, please stay in touch. There's so much good happening. And we look forward to not only seeing you at Facebook this evening, but every day now, every day at that 6 p.m. Eastern time, as we're building to October 1, where we will be sharing the hidden secrets, that which was cloaked away in the mystery schools that surround the healthy use of the Egyptian healing rods. And that training will be made available free to everyone who owns the rods. So, beloved ones, it's a wonderful time to be awake. We are manifesting. It's September. It's our destiny. Keep holding the positive, the gratitude forefront in your consciousness, and that which is required to sustain it will come into your world. We love you so